it's getting so serious for black people, and we are being misled as usual. And you talked about, of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And, one of the things that he said is that when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. And a lot of the things that we see today are reflecting that same type of mentality. And he also talked about how black people have been miseducated into confusing out their interests with those of the dominant society. And many people are still under the impact of that same miseducation, because when we look at some of the information I'm going to bring forward here in terms of the bond report, particularly the economic and business information. When I was on in November, we talked about the jobs, and I said then that the U.S. economy had created 203,000 jobs, and there were over 2 million unemployed black people alone in America. And that's being conservative, because you're only counted in that number if you were unemployed within the previous 4 weeks and actively seeking work. And we know a lot of black people have been out of work much longer than 4 weeks, in fact, longer than 4 months, some longer than 4 years. So none of those people are reflected when you hear these numbers in terms of the unemployment rate and so forth. But the thing is, even though there were 203,000 jobs in November, and we thought, you can't fit 2 million into 203,000. I don't know what kind of math you could do to make those numbers work. But then December came out, Mike, and it went to 74,000 jobs being created in December. So it went down. And so if you can't fit 2 million into 203,000, you sure can't fit 2 million into 74,000 jobs that are being created. And this is pointing to, again, the need for black people to get involved in new ways of thinking in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of working together, in terms of building and looking not just locally but regionally and globally, because that's where the competition is. Even the holiday season, there was a lot of hype about the holiday season, and locally here in Philadelphia, a report has just come out where, according to Alan Buckovitz, and sometimes, Mike, you got to drop a white person's name to your information.
Then it's legitimate. Yes, absolutely.
To give folks, some credibility, it seems. But according to, the Alan Buckovitz, he says, in fact, there was a slowing economy and a worse increasing unemployment. But here's the thing. He also tried to say, or says, that there is hope for a rebounding economy in the months to come. Now, here's where we have to part ways, because you remember the Great Recession allegedly ended in December of 2009, which was 4 years and 1 month ago. So if the Great Recession ended and we've been in recovery for 4 years and 1 month, how's it going to improve and rebound in the months to come? Some of the things that are, shared with us just don't pass the sniff test. And, we keep falling for this. And the other thing is, here in Philadelphia, for example, when we hear this unemployment rate in Philly, they're saying it's about 9.5%. But I told folks before that if you look at the unemployment population ratio, which is a number a lot of economists feel is more accurate, that number actually looks at what percentage of your population is actually working. Only about 58% of the population is actually working. So if you think about that, because now we're looking at those people we've said earlier who are not being counted. We're looking at the folks who've been out of work for longer than 4 weeks. That number, you're actually looking at about 42% of the people who are not working. So this is why we're seeing some of these desperate crimes. And one of the things I saw something this week, Mike, where they're showing a guy who goes into the store, and we're seeing more crimes like this, where he goes into a store, he orders 10 packs of cigarettes, the clerk puts them on the shelf, and then he snatches the 10 packs of cigarettes up. Well, he orders 20. They put the first 10 on, he runs out the store. One of the clerks chases him out, and a second guy is standing there with a gun and orders the second, the clerk back into the store. Now, when have you seen those types of crimes?
Whoa.
Right? Okay.
Whoa.
A two-person stick-up job for 10 packs of cigarettes.
That speaks volumes.
Defense attorney, you know the type of time they're looking at, because they're doing these crimes, Mike, and looking right into the camera. It's like they're at a photo booth.
Yes.
Because anywhere you go today, there's surveillance cameras, but this shows you the type of desperation that people are facing. But here's the thing. I looked into it because I said, well, you know what, let me see what that story was. Let me look in Google and see, where's that come from? I want to, see what's happened. I found over 250,000 hits, Mike, when I put in stealing cigarettes in Philly.
Whoa, in Philly.
This is the type of crime that we're not hearing about. You see people stealing batteries out of stores.
Yes.
Not long-term career criminals.
That's a great point.
Like, you know what? I need some batteries.
Yes.
For my device, and I can't afford them. I need These are the types of crimes, and this is why we're seeing this, and it's being underreported. Or, folks are pointing at these people, but we're going to see more of these crimes. And so one of the things I've been, encouraging people to do is look at how do you change and improve your skill set. You need marketable skills, and a lot of these things is changed, because one of the reasons why the jobs are not being created is that technology is actually driving a lot of this, improve productivity. A lot of people, if they think about what they can do with that little device that's sitting on their hip, that little thing they call a phone, but it's actually a computer now, because you can do applications on it, you can search the internet, you can do video, you can do photos. It's not merely a phone. It's a smartphone, although in some people's hands it becomes a dumb phone. But it really is a powerful device. It's more powerful than a lot of the computers we were selling. I used to sell back in the 80s and 90s, but what's happening also is because of the global economy, and people and companies can find cheap labor abroad. English is the dominant language, so they can find people who can speak English. As you mentioned earlier, they can find people in prisons who are slaves, or enslaved, I should say. And so what happens is, this is why you're seeing companies making record profit. They're being more productive with fewer people. And if a company is saying, look, I can do with 600 people what I used to do with 1,000 people, they're not going to hire those 400 people back. This is why we're still talking about a recovery some 4 years and 1 month after the recession ended. And then you have people saying, where are the jobs? President Obama said, when he came in office, it's going to be a jobless recovery. So we're experiencing that, right now. And what people need to do is look at new skills, look at things like how you can leverage technology, how you can take your passion, things that you have skills at. How can you monetize those things? How can you commercialize those things? How can you better market what you do? How can you work within your family unit and create businesses and invest in each other? Because I don't care if it comes out of a white mouth or a black mouth, the jobs are not going to get better. You got college grads out here fighting for minimum wage jobs, and then we know what we're seeing with people as they've tried to even fight to lower and end the minimum wage on one hand, while others are saying it's not enough. So this is the reality that we're dealing with. And so I'm going to switch real quick into some social justice. One thing that happened, Mike, I know you're familiar with this officer, Randall Carrick, in North Carolina. North Carolina grand jury indicted this police officer. He's out in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and what happens, he got indicted on voluntary manslaughter charges in the shooting death of an unarmed black man named Jonathan Ferrell, who was 24 years old. Now, this was the second grand jury, because the first one, the partial grand jury, refused to indict this police officer. Now, he shot Jonathan Ferrell 10 times. We fired 12 shots, hit him 8 times in the chest, once in the arm, once in the leg, goes to a grand jury, and the grand jury says, partial, because 4 people didn't even show up, says, well, we don't have enough evidence to indict this police officer. So days later, a second grand jury was convened, which did indict him, but again, he's just been indicted. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a conviction. So that's going on in North Carolina. And the reason that Jonathan Ferrell would happen is he had a car accident, knocks on a homeowner's house. They're looking for help. The homeowner, this white woman, calls 911. 3 police officers show up, and he winds up with 10 bullets in his body. This is, what's happening with black folks in America. And then the third piece I want to mention real quick is on the political side. This is a story, and some people, probably haven't heard about, but I think it's important because it points to a number of issues. And this is going on with the tobacco industry. And some people may recall that there was a lot of anger and legal issues with big tobacco.
Yep.
And back in 1999, the Justice Department actually sued a number of these tobacco companies, saying that they violated the RICO, the Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. And a judge found them guilty in 2006 and said that these companies were not liable for monetary damages, but they had to make corrective statements, because what had been happening is they had been, advertising and running commercials and really doing a lot of misleading information about the harmful effects of smoking. Well, they reached an agreement in January, and what happened in January, this agreement is valued at probably about $30 to $45 million, according to some of the reports. But the judge who gave the ruling, what she did is she said, here's a list of publications where you have to publish corrective statements about these misleading statements that you made. And you got to run full-page ads in print newspapers. You got to run ads on these major TV networks. And, Mike, do you know not a single black newspaper, magazine, or broadcast outlet was included in the list of 35 outlets that was drawn up by this judge.
Now, in order to explain to the listening audience how egregious that is, talk a little bit about how tobacco and cancer adversely affects the black community more so than the white community.
There you go, Mike. And this is why when I end up having to do what I have to do, you're going to be the first call I make for criminal defense. But
incredible, man. How could the judge even? Go on, please. The most common
cancer in both African American men and women is lung cancer. It kills more African Americans than any type of cancer. And according to the Center for Disease Control and other, white organizations, CDC, and we know their history. But anyway, they say, adjusting for age, when they looked at from 2006 through 2010, which is pretty recent data, African Americans had the highest incident rate of lung cancer, lung and bronchus cancer. They had 64.8 per 100,000 people. We had the highest incident of any ethnic group and the general population. General population is 61.7 per 100,000. Blacks is 64. So we had the highest incident of lung cancer. And when the judge comes out and says, I want you tobacco companies spend $30 to $45 million to correct this misleading information, she doesn't think it's worthy to put it into a single black newspaper, radio, TV, internet, not even mentioned. So Norm, not only no WURD and no Tribune, but no Ebony, no Jet, no Chicago Defender, none of that.
Wow.
Right. No Black Enterprise.
Wow.
Not even, blacks of not even a hip-hop magazine.
Great point. Great point.
So here are black people, again, consuming on the one. And this is where, again, it shows that why we really have to recognize that we have to do stuff for ourselves. And we're living in a colonialized state within America. We have to fight internally, but I think we also have to build bridges and connect externally and globally because we've been fighting this fight 400, 500 years, and it's a fight and a struggle that we have to continue, but we also have to use and update our tactics, and we have more tools today to connect with our brothers and sisters globally, than ever. When Dr. Carter G. Woodson couldn't get on Facebook, he couldn't get a Twitter following, he couldn't use a mobile phone, and he couldn't Skype and things like this. We have these things. He didn't. So imagine, now that we have these tools, you can connect with people, as you mentioned, from Philly to Philippines, and look at them in real time from your home in North Philadelphia. But you have to change the way you think, which is getting back to what Dr. Carter G. Woodson was saying. If you control your thinking, and all we're following is what so-called mainstream media is putting out, and what are the interests of so-called America, our interest, we're always going to be at the bottom. And so this is why it's time for us to use these new tools. And the last thing I want to mention is, the day, of course, Super Bowl, and I want to mention this brother, Richard Sherman. Because he caught a lot of heat. When he at the NFC Championship game for some of the statements, allegedly, and of course they've come out and tried to label him, mislabel him, and so forth. But he wrote a piece that he called 10 Things I Learned After America Learned About Me. And in that, he two. I'm going to just give people two. The one is, he said, the NFL always wins. That's something he learned. He said every time a game ends on a controversial call or somebody loses it on camera, it's free advertising for the NFL. It's not just his name being talked about on all the shows. It's the NFL's logo on all the shows. This means more eyes on the Super Bowl, more clicks for their websites, and potentially more sales for his jersey, for which he doesn't even see a kickback.
Wow.
He said even when they're taking money out of his pocket with fines, the league is constantly winning. That's one of the 10 things. The other one of the 10 things he said he learned is it's not all black and white. He said race played a major part in how his behavior was received, but he thinks it went beyond that. Would the reaction have been the same if he was clean cut, didn't have locks? He said maybe if I looked more acceptable in conservative circles, my rant would have been understood as passion.
Absolutely.
These prejudices still play a factor in our views because it's human nature to stereotype a lady someone, and we all have that. So people can find the other 8 on the website blackeconomicdevelopment.com. They can go to blackeconomicdevelopment.com, read that article, some of the other content that is there. And then also, as we shift to the solutions piece, I'm doing a 4-week class on small business marketing and social media marketing. It's going to be an online class so people can actually take it from the comfort of their home in terms of they have a laptop or a tablet. It's a 4-week intensive class. You're going to learn a lot there. You can find more about that on my website, normbond.com, NORMBOND.com. And, we're going to get into all of the social media platforms and give people strategies and whatnot. And like I said, you can do it from your home. The other thing is I did do a deal with this brother out of he's from Kenya. He's currently in Belgium. And he has this acpdirectory.com, which I've mentioned. I actually had him on the program. But people can go to the website. They can list their business for free, a free month, which is a diamond list, and that's a $49 value. But it's not just that the listing, which is important, but it's also events, there's content, there's classifieds, there's a blog. And what it does, too, is it allows people to pull some of their information off of Facebook and some of these platforms, because like I say to people, you're on Facebook, Twitter, and all these things. I'm on them as well, but the bottom line is you don't own those platforms. Although Mark Zuckerberg this week, his wealth went up to $35 billion because Facebook stock is now at its highest. It's at $61, $62 a share.
What's his value now? What's the value?
This week it went to over $31 billion. 31 billion.
That's obscene. Yes.
This is why we need to be on this tech game. Okay. 31. That's just his, not the overall valuation, but that's his cut. And we got to remember that with Facebook and everybody's on and people staying there all day, just like all these other platforms, but we're going on as consumers, and we need to think we can create these platforms. All it is zeros and ones. At the end of the day, it's all digital, right? So we just like our creativity, we come up with these ideas. We can now use our creativity to turn them into games, turn them into the black people are disproportionately using social media, mobile devices, more the apps, on them longer. We put more of our revenue there. So, but again, we got to think as owners, how do we become producers and not just service providers or getting serviced? And a lot of the service we provide is lip service. But anyway, the bottom line is that go to acpdirectory.com. I'm also going to be doing some trainings and whatnot to help people. We also are setting up an affiliate relationship so that people can become independent representatives and make money. So that's going to be another option we're working to bring. And the final thing is I'm working with some folks to do something we're calling the Urban Tech Fair. And that's going to be a 10-city tour. It's going to be in 2015, but we're going to do some things in March and February to introduce it. And I'm working with Jackie Taylor Adams. Some people know her here, Taylor Adams Marketing, and a guy named Jim Newsom. He's out of Las Vegas. And they can go to Urban Tech Fair, www.urbantechfair.org. We're going to be announcing the date for the event in March. Which is going to be, again, online, but we're going to show some things locally. He's going to stream it from Vegas. So, there are tools, as tough as it is, and I know it's tough for people, But we have to work together. We have to connect globally, and we have to take action, in order to really improve our condition.
Norm, thank you for laying out the problem, but even better, laying out some real practical solutions. Norm Bond. For more information, contact Norm Bond at normbond.com. Norm, thanks again for everything.
Thank you, Brother Mike.
All right. Again, Norm Bond. Reach out to him at normbond.com.